Hello everyone, and welcome to GUILDGAB episode 13. This is a show where we talk about anything and everything Guild Wars 2, focusing on the PvE and the lore. Today we're going to be talking about the Dragon's Reach Part 1, as well as the trailer for the Dragon's Reach Part 2. But let me introduce my co-hosts first. I have Akasaurus Rex to my left.
Ohio, how you doing?
Good. And filling in for Corvus at the last minute because he's awesome and made himself available is Alex of the RPG Shack here on YouTube.
Hello.
Thank you so much for filling in. That's really awesome of you.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me on. And,
Absolutely. Yeah. So Ak, I know you are very determined to level your character up to 80, and you are almost there, right?
I got 7 levels to go.
Level 73, awesome.
Can't believe it, actually. I'm nearly there. You know, the funny thing about this is that I've been experiencing Guild Wars 2's story, and especially the living story, from a really kind of opposite way, in that I'm essentially... I've gotten all the Living World Season 1. I was there for the whole thing pretty much, and I'm here for Season 2, but I still haven't actually personally finished the personal story yet, because I've taken that bloody long to finish it.
You're savoring it, right?
So it's like, and of course I've spoiled myself as far as the overall details of what happens in the personal story, but I haven't actually played through it. So there are a lot of little bits that I haven't actually seen and done, whereas everyone's talked about them throughout the personal story and everything. So I'm experiencing all this stuff backwards. So
you know what happens, you just haven't experienced it in game.
Yeah, and it's really kind of trippy because it's kind of I'm seeing the crate in the zones after I've seen them in the actual living story, which is where I saw them for the first time, for instance. Mm-hmm. Whereas people who actually played through the personal story first would have seen it, chronologically, whereas I'm experiencing all these things kind of backwards and all over the place. So it's kind of interesting. But
yeah.
So when everyone's there talking about, oh, you know how we defeated Zlatan, and you're there going, well,
yeah. I've seen the videos, and I'm just really being slow. Because the problem for me is just that this game has such an amazing character creation for it. And that's so much fun, and I've always loved playing as kitties, as Char, and I always constantly want to change them and modify a little bit, so I've constantly been I'm not feeling this, and then I completely delete it and make a new one. And it's
are you actually still making your way to level 80 with your first character then, or have you got a couple of 80s hidden in the background? Or?
No, I've never actually gotten any 80s, and this character...
He kept re-rolling over and over and over and over and over. I know! And so we finally convinced him, with all this living story content that's level 80 only, it forced him to focus on one character. And we said, you got 5 character slots to begin with. Take one, get it to 80, and then you can play around all you want with the other 4. And so he's finally taken our advice and is almost to 80.
I tell you what, if you can find that particular aspect of the personal story, that you know how when you go into Fort Trinity after the battle and there's that crate orb that they use for something to open the Azura gates, and I remember at launch no one could figure out how to get this particular instance of the story. If you can find it somehow and record it and then prove to everybody it exists and oh, by the way, there's this magic orb that we're not telling anybody about, but yeah, it's there now.
Yeah, you see, because I just did those instances last night. So it's now I actually know that, whereas most people would have known this for 2 years, exactly what you're talking about, where it's I just finally did it last night.
But you know what, there's a lot of little things in the personal story like that you forget about, because for a lot of us it's been almost 2 years since we've experienced that, so there's a lot of little details. I saw a screenshot the other night that my friend sent me, because she's going through the personal story with some alts, and she said that when you're escaping from Claw Island, Traherne is carrying a mummified body. She sent me a screenshot of it, and it's Traherne carrying a body. And I was like, what? What? I've never heard of that.
I mean, at least we can now say that Traherne is certainly some kind of shady. But That's
He's
so
taking
weird.
dead bodies.
I mean, I think everyone's kind of focused on, Tybalt or Siren dying, and while Traherne's
You
kind
don't
of
pay
grave
attention to Trahearne 'cause
grave
he's just
robbing
there
outside the.
right. He's just there fighting with you, and yeah, I was like, I didn't even know what to say. I was like, I didn't know that this was a thing, and I've never heard that this was a thing, because you would think that if this was a big noticeable thing, I mean, wouldn't there be some speculation on why he's carrying a body? Unless they're
Yeah.
But see, then again, is there something in the personal story? Was that part of it? And I just have forgotten what that is?
I don't know, because in the Sylvari personal story, he shows up kind of early, and you're just like, oh, hi, Trahearne, a new interesting character, and then 75 levels later, you're like, oh, it's you.
It's you.
But he's pretty much there. I think, especially if you choose the shield of the White Moon shield storyline, the third of the storylines. I think he turns up in quite a bit through that, and yeah, it's really interesting to see how him and Kaith interact before he turns into like the Pact commander and everything, and takes all of the credit for what we do. And not that I'm bitter about it or anything.
I always find it funny too, because like prior to like actually seeing Trahearne in game, I'd heard about people talking about him because I was like following Wooden Potatoes videos and stuff, and his lore videos, and getting up on the lore and just following his stuff, and hearing him and everyone else go on and on and on about this Trahearne character, about how apparently everyone's hating this guy, and it was this glory stealer and hero and stuff. So and the funny thing was that I kept picturing him as this kind of big, like Norn, beefy knight, like armor wearing character, and from the some music videos and stuff of cinematics from Guild Wars 2, there's this guy with with an eye patch, which I don't think I may have seen, a human character with an eye patch who's like,
that's in the Vigil
doing
storyline.
stuff. Okay, yeah, and so I thought he'd be like that, or if that was him. So when I finally came across Trahearne as this like spindly, skinny, scholarly, like nice sort of almost Queen's English British necromancing Sylvari, I was like, you're Trahearne? Oh,
You're not so scary.
that's kind of cool, actually.
He's a necromancer who can use a greatsword as well, which is kind of weird.
Oh.
That is his class, isn't he? He's supposed to be a necromancer, and then he turns up with Caladbolg, and you have all of these skills. Yeah, again, there's in one of the Sylvari personal. I think is it the Sylvari personal story. Someone nicks his sword, and you have to go back and get him, and you have a little bit of a fight with him in Gendaran Fields and everything. But then so have you not managed to experience any of the season 2 yet, Ak?
Not yet.
Oh, no.
But next patch I should. Next patch I finally will be able to get it, because
Actually,
they've got 7 levels left, so I should be able to be 80, I hope, by...
Yeah. Actually, episode 3, I don't think that there was any place that you were required to be 80. Perhaps in the instance, at the end with Rytlock, but other than that, it was mostly open world events, and it was mostly in, I believe, like Iron Marches and
There
Plateau.
was a stage in Frostgorge Sound as well.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, Frostgorge. Yeah. You'd have a rough time if you weren't 80.
Which was really weird, because when I was watching the video, and I did like this really silly speculation video and just made a whole bunch of stuff up about what I thought was going to happen, and I was like, oh, maybe Jormax, and it just turns out we got to go and smack some of the Sons of Svanit from Press Air. It's like,
right.
Oh.
That's what I figured the Ice Brood in the trailer was, that we were just going to have to do that in order to get the Norn's attention or get their help. Were you guys hoping for more from the trailer?
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved for them to actually really take some balls on to actually cleanse the ghosts of Ascalon. That's what I would have hoped. Although I guess it was unrealistic, but
that's actually a big question I had was, do you guys kind of resent the trailer at all because it was do you think it was misleading because it kind of shows Rytlock like everybody thought, like if this was gonna work, because that was the main point of the trailer, really. That was the big finish, and then it just kind of, that's not quite what happened.
I don't know. I mean, for the longest time, I would love to see a cleansed ore. So after you complete the personal story, there's a way that you can go back to ore and it's all big and shiny. I think the devs even said at launch that ore wasn't finished by the time they launched the game. But yeah, doing it to Ascalon, considering that you've got is it 3 zones? So you've got Plains of Ashford, Iron Marches, and Diessa Plateau, all of which contain Ghosts of Ascalon, including the Char starter story where you square off against Baradin. It's going to be a lot of work to try and do it. So to try and actually get that, you'd have to replace all of the events. You'd have to redo a lot of the lore. You'd have to redo a lot of the personal story.
Right.
And on top of that, I don't think it'd be worth it. And on top of that, all of the lore as well about how it's got to be a descendant of Doric who cleanses the foe fire and all that. But whether or not they retconned it and just gone, well, actually, Rytlock turns out to be the next Karna or something, and he's the rightful king, and that kind of. It'd be a lot of work, but it would be interesting to see. But I guess if we've been playing since launch, it kind of makes sense to us to say, right, this is actually happening now. But for a new player to come in, and everyone's banging on about, oh, you know, these ghosts were here, but now they're not anymore. It doesn't. I think
for new players, that I think that new players just starting now, that would have to be something that they're going to have to accept. You know, like if they cleansed ore, you know, I don't think that there could still be baddies to fight to get to the Aurora dungeon. You know, it's not just going to be a happy place, but you could cleanse it and just tell tell new players, well, the open world has changed because you're coming in late. You know, so the personal story could be exactly the same because it's instanced. But the open world can change, and they're just going to have to... Like, Lion's Arch is destroyed. New players, too bad. You know, you didn't get to see the nice and pretty Lion's Arch. And that's something that they just have to accept, that now it's destroyed. And personally, I don't know how it works behind the scenes, but, like, if they could have kept... the personal story instances that are in Lion's Arch, if they could have kept it happy and clean, I don't care if it's confusing for new players. What is this place that's all happy? This isn't Lion's Arch. Now maybe they couldn't do that because of technical reasons, I don't know. But I think that would have been better because it would have shown Lion's Arch used to be like this, and then you miss some stuff, and now it's destroyed.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at the personal story log, it's actually got this really great... I'll put that pen down. There's got a really great thing where it's actually got the year in the story. So your personal story takes place in 1325 AE, and the season 2 takes place in 1327, I think. So we're 2 years on. So you're absolutely right. I think it would be really cool if you could jump back and see all these glorious things instead of Tybalt going there. It's like, shh, all these people recognize you, and you're looking around like... What?
Right, because you still got characters like that every time you play because it's an instant story. So I think that they could, like you said, it would be a lot of work, but they could cleanse the open world of ghosts, but keep them in the personal story and the dungeons, because like like the Ascalon dungeon story and the Char, you know, personal story instances with the ghosts, those all take place in the past. So you just have to accept that when you go into this instance and you do the story, that you are doing a past story. So otherwise, the game couldn't move forward.
And like the nice thing about how they're doing the story journal and the living story now is that we know that they do have the tech to make these things instances to be experienced repeatedly. So that like they do have plans to make it so that you can experience season 1, for instance. So the fact that they have that, and for season 2 as well, obviously you can replay it over and over again once you get into it. They can conceivably have just about everything that is currently from year 1, as it were, of launch in the story journal. Like, for instance, they could even have original Lion's Arch in a story journal type sense, and that you could you know, get some kind of pay for some kind of instance to experience that original thing, right? Like it seems like they'd have the tech to do all kinds of stuff in that respect.
However, you just made me think of this. With parts of episode 3 taking place in the open world, and those open world events having to do with ghosts, and I mean, there's an open world event where a Char places a ghost capturer, or it's been a while. I forget what that ghost ball thing that you have to defend him from ghosts. That's an open world event, so they can't really cleanse that because the story instances now with the story journal, you're meant to go forever. You'll be able to replay those episodes. Well, this is open world, so they can kind of never change that open world now.
On top of that, it screws up Ascalonian Catacombs as well. Because if you've got... I mean, again, they could try and, like, story instance it or something, but if you go in and the very first thing that you see is Rytlock, goes... I don't know, because technically if it takes place in the past and it's all that kind of thing. But going into Ascalonian Catacombs and just going, right, there's ghosts everywhere, we need to get rid of them. And, like I say, if a new player's just come in from outside, and it's like, no ghosts here, and then ghosts inside.
But that's instanced. And I think that it's acceptable that there's still ghosts in there because that's an instance thing. So that's taking place in the past. Even explorable mode. Yeah. I say just say that that's in the past, and then maybe open up a new dungeon path, just like the Aetherblade dungeon, or the Aetherblade path in Twilight Arbor. Say that this is an instance that takes place in the future from the previous instances in the story of Twilight Arbor. So they could just do the same thing like that. It's confusing. That I cannot believe I can't even imagine the decisions that they have to make on this.
I'm personally 100% in favor of changing as much as possible, and I'm extremely liberal on that front. So I know in the MMORPG communities there are people that are ridiculously conservative and go on all these things saying, oh no, we need to have it for new players, something like that. It's like, no. This is a MMORPG. Things live and move on. If you weren't there, too bad, honey. And let's just keep moving the story. Let's explode things. Let's make everything change, baby. Let's just keep on moving it.
But if you see what
punk rock bass coming out. Anarchy. Yeah.
I was going to say, it can be done because Blizzard did it with Cataclysm. They completely redesigned about half the world, and Barrens was thankfully broken up into a couple of different areas. So it would be really, really cool to see. But I was going to ask, did you guys have any trouble with the open world events when the patch dropped?
This is all the hearing about all the bugs kind of perplexed me because I played episode 3 on the stage server, and by myself, open world events was not fun. This is not meant to be a solo episode. But I only encountered one tiny glitch, and it was not progress blocking. It was just like I had to wait a couple extra seconds after I got out of one of those vine pods that wrap around you. I just had to wait a couple extra seconds until I could move. That was the only thing that I encountered. So I'm perplexed that there was all these bugs on the live version. I'm like, I had no problem when I played it. So I actually have not. I for that reason I waited to play, and I actually have not played it on live yet.
Okay, I think it's all sorted out now.
Yes, I believe it is. I haven't heard that there's any problems still, but for a couple days, there was some serious problems, and I heard a lot of people getting really frustrated with it. What was your experience?
It took us about 3.5 hours, but we did it. We thankfully, even though the mega server thing's in now, you can still guest on different servers. So I guess you still have a primary log on when you're attributed to a particular server. So we just ended up hopping. If you group up, and we just ended between about 10 different servers looking for an event that pops. So eventually we got through it. But yeah, it took a while. And there are a lot of events that just kind of stalled out. And you're absolutely right as well. They are. Especially the first couple of events in Iron March is very group focused play, especially that one where you have to get in. It's kind of like the getting the things at the Battle of Lion's Arch. When you get the red, blue, and green kind of phases, so you can jump into the Breachmaker, and you had to pick up that kind of debuff, so you could pick up a thing and then take it back.
Yes, that one confused me at first. I was like, it's telling me to cover myself in Mordrum scent or spores or something, so that the Mordrum can't see me, so I can go up to this, and I'm just like, how do I cover myself in Mordrum scent? I have no idea. It didn't say kill an enemy to, you know, get this buff. I was so confused for the longest
It was
time.
a very confusing time, that whole like sequence from what I remember. Although, man, like and I know we're not going to be like supposed to be talking specifically about like the fall of Lion's Arch, but that whole sequence that they did was just really well done because I've never experienced that kind of event really happening in an MMO. Just like, you know, like it was just there's so many people and there's so many things happening, and to see the city changing weekly, like in stages of being attacked, essentially. Like there was like the stage of it like just before being attacked, and then being attacked, and then like another stage when it was like still being attacked when like Scarlet's Drill finally came in, and then finally after that we have like the current state of it. Like to experience that changing aspect, and like the enemies were changing on Waking-ness, and it just really felt like a city on siege, which I've never had that experience before. So that was just a really amazing experience, I have to say, for what they did. I just want to jump in there on that.
Did you like the how they did this story as far as because you have your little, you know, kind of like your personal story stars that you follow around now. And did you like that you were required to do all these open world events? Do you think that that's a good mechanic?
I think that there was in previous instances of the living story, you get to do like your 5-minute story instance. One that particularly springs to mind is the last Halloween patch, that you jump in, you have to go do some events elsewhere, and then you do your 5-minute story instance, and that's kind of it. And I thought that was a really kind of boring way of doing it. And conversely, then you had the marionette battle, where it's just one giant Zerg kind of thing, and then everyone kind of goes away and does 5 minutes of story. So I really think that combining the two is a much greater way of doing it. So saying, right, you've got to get involved with these events. You've got to, and I think in a way it teaches people to play their class as well, because there's a Mordrum champion just as you come out of the camp in Iron Marches, and it will just kick your ass if you kind of run up and go, I can smack it with a sword, and it's got this horrible debuff where it just flattens everybody. So I think it's a really good way. And I think one of the things they wanted to say was, we want to make it harder for more experienced players, but we still want to make it accessible for new players. So bringing these all new open world events, but actually making them challenging, I think is a really good thing, as well as like the extended bits of story that they've got, because you can be, I think, you know, it takes you about 40 minutes to do each little bit of story, and I think that's a really cool thing.
Yeah. I like the fact that they're adding these open world events. Now this does change the open world. There's Mordrum everywhere in Iron Marches now. But if you're, especially people who don't play alts, and don't really have as much of a reason to go back to lower level zones, they wouldn't even ever see all these events if the story didn't require you to go there. So I don't know if I'm crazy about actually doing the mechanic of running around and doing all these open world events, but I think it's a wonderful thing that they did make you go and experience them, to show you that they're there, and show you it really solidifies in my mind that these Mordrum are everywhere now. Like, it wasn't just that one little camp, that little char camp, and we're all the, you know, in the trailer we saw the gigantic vines come up, you know, and so we knew that Mordrum were rising there, but there's like 2 or 3 other events in that area that you have to run all around the map, and your Mordrum are everywhere. I was even like, I zoomed out and looked at the whole map, and I was like, this is the opposite side of the map from Brisbane Wildlands and the Maguma Jungle, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Mordremoth has spread this far. He is everywhere under Tyria.
Yeah.
There's this wonderful map. I'll try and find a link for it at some point. There's this map that it's kind of detailed where vines have spread across Tyria. Of course, we've seen it in Fort Mariner and Camp Concordia. The Fort Mariner waypoint doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
actually,
it's completely ripped down.
I tried to drop in there the other day. I was like, contested. It's there. I know it.
Yeah. I was like noticing that a lot too. It just kept shooting me to the other one. You know, it's like stuff like that is really kind of cool, because even when you can't actually partake in these episodes, which I haven't, I've just been trying to level up all the way. I have been keeping continuously coming across these like waypoints that are
Waypoints
wrapped up
that
in
have
the
the vines
vines.
wrapped around. So even though
And
you can't, do the story instances,
you're still
you
like
still get a
reminded
sense
of what's
of
happening.
Mordremoth is
Yeah,
here.
yeah, which is really cool. Which like I mean like I I like also love playing WoW, but just as like one blogger was stating, like that game, even when this new expansion comes out, that game is still at its heart the same game it was in 2004, which is the whole point. That if you really hate that game from 2004, then you're not going to love it with any new expansion that comes out for it. Whereas like Guild Wars 2 is showing
Keeps changing and
what you
evolving.
can do with like a latest kind of MMO technology thing, where it's like you can have these things happening throughout the entire world and leveling process, not just at like end game, expansion. Like this, the
Mm-hmm.
uh, arena can have stuff that can reverberate throughout the entire planet of Tyria, like with the vines and everything, and it can affect you, which is really kind of cool. Which is what's making this living story season stuff really kind of standing out for me.
Yeah,
Really cool way.
nice.
I also want to say too, with Rytlock, like it was kind of a bad kind of tease with them. Everyone like, are the ghosts going to be cleansed with that megalithic awesome brain
Yeah.
explosion thing? But I do have to say that the kind of cool thing at least is that he stayed very much in character of Rytlock, because a lot of people we were kind of wondering like why doesn't he do something about that sword that he has that he's had for so long. And but it's kind of cool that his explanation essentially is, I mean, A, he doesn't answer to anybody because that's just who he is. Because many Char are kind of pricks. They don't they don't like being pushed or told to do anything. And Rillick was saying, well, I've been doing my own studies and apparently this thing has some power. Maybe I can actually end it. And then I like love the fact that I think some people even like tell Rillick saying like, well, isn't it supposed to be the hair that's supposed to do this? And Rillick saying like, it's gonna work because I want to make it to work. And it's like that's beautiful because that's like so real. And I kind of love the fact that it doesn't actually work because Ritlock isn't like the human heir of this prophecy stuff, but he's just got so much, hubris inside of him because of his char nature. He's like, no, I'm gonna freaking do this. I'm gonna take the sword and I'm gonna do it, and it's gonna work because I'm a char. And then it doesn't work, and he's like, my sword's going. What? And then he just jumps into the thing. It's like, Ritlock, you, and he's gone. It's like, what?
Yeah.
It'll be
It's
really interesting to see what we do where we end up, and whether or not we end up, dropping through into like the realm of torment or something, or I don't know, maybe even just dropping through into the heart of the mists, and it just becomes a playable instance, and we have to just chase them around there and fire the catapults. And
Do you think that we are going to find a way to get to Rytlock, or do you think Rytlock's going to be gone for a while and he's going to show up later, having done whatever he's done in the mists?
I feel like he's just gonna show up.
That's what
Some
I think, rather than us going after him. Because and I was a little put off by how quickly it was actually how quickly our own character dismissed the idea of going after him. Because even Rox is like, can we, what's going on? He's gone. Can we go save him? And we're just like, nope, there's no way to follow him.
he's good, he's fine.
I'm sitting there thinking, we have portals to the mists. Like, we know this? Like, we have ways to get into the mists. And I know they're vast and they're, a maze and it would be almost impossible to find them, but there's a possibility. But our character's just like, nope, Rocks, there's no way to follow him. There's absolutely
He's
no
dead.
way.
Gone.
He's
That's
gone.
it.
We're just going to have to wait for him to get back. I was like, really?
And
Here-
actually, it's kind of funny. Do you guys remember a show from like the '90s called Sliders?
I
It
know what
started
you're
Yes.
talking
started
about.
like John Rhys Davis and this kid and this guy who I believe was a central character in an '80s show called My Secret Identity, which I totally like remember. Like the theme music is like "You'll never guess my secret identity," and he flies around and has like little spray cans, and it's a '80s show. But Sliders though is basically the whole idea behind it is that like people open up these portals and keep jumping between parallel Earths, and there's like millions and millions of parallel Earths. So when Rytlock jumped into that hole, I just like totally thought of like this like spin-off series of like Rytlock sliders. It's like, "Grr, I'm going through all these parallel terriers." He has to like open up portals and like he's got like a whole little like show. Like Rytlock jumping through like millions of alternate terriers.
What
Like,
about
oh man, it's flooded. And just like grumpy Rytlock going through.
what about Quantum Rytlock? Do you ever watch Quantum Leap?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
So what? So Rytlock jumps through to a new world. He inhabits a body, and he's just like, "Nar, I'm Rytlock." And then Al
That'd
from
be
Quantum
awesome.
Leap comes along. It's like, "Rytlock, you've got to save King Adalbern before you can jump." He's like, "But I don't wanna."
I hate humans. I'm not a human. Yeah, you are. You're like, what are you talking about, man? You're a human. Look, here's a mirror. I know, but I'm not actually a human. I'm a char from another area. It's like, you're crazy, man. And like, yeah.
Here's
And
I
quantum Rytlock, yeah.
here's my theory on the whole Rytlock thing, and I don't know if this is completely crazy or not, but I don't think Rytlock was trying to cleanse Ascalon of the ghosts at all. I think that's just what he told us. I think Rytlock flat out lied to us.
Yeah.
I think that maybe he did, because he was talking about he was doing all this research onto, how to cleanse the ghosts and everything. I think that he found something else. Maybe he knew that this portal was going to open up, and he just didn't want anybody to know what he was doing. I don't know what he's doing, but I think that he just told us that that's what he was doing so that we would accept, oh yeah, let's go along, let's cleanse the ghosts, cleanse Ascalon of the ghosts. But he's really got a different agenda, and I don't know what that is.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Unless it's to finally get a shot of Adalbern and Baradin, and then once he does that, he could raise the Ghost Army as his own and fight Mordramoth. But that's very Lord of the Rings, isn't it? I'm not sure they could get away with that.
Right, yeah, that's gonna... if he randomly shows up and he's got an army of ghosts following him to attack Mordramoth, it would be really epic. And it would be a Lord of the Rings moment, though.
That is kind of one of the big theories in the lore forums at the moment. It's like, yes, he could have an Ascalonian army, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh no,
Just Zerg like Mordramoth, like they did.
Yeah.
It's like Zerged everything.
However, if it turns out that that's truly what he was trying to do, is cleanse the ghosts, and it just didn't work, unfortunately, there's some changes to the curse. Now, I mean, because the lore that we've always known is that, an heir to the Ascalonian throne gets the sword and cleanses Ascalon. Well, wouldn't he have come across this? That's what makes me think that Rytlock can't be that stupid if he did all this research, and if that was true, why would he try it anyway? Because I said so, it's gonna work. Because
give
come
it a
on,
try.
Rytlock's not that stupid. I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me that that's truly what he was trying to do. And then this random portal opens up, and he jumps after the sword, and he still doesn't tell us where he got the sword.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean,
It
the only place he could have got it, spoilers coming up, by the way, for Guild Wars 1, is if he pried it off of Rurik's cold dead corpse at Hell's Precipice. Because, can you just imagine if you'd managed to pick up that sweet piece of loot on that final mission and then taken it to the Lich? That would have been amazing. But yeah, he never says where he got it. I mean, I guess one of the options is that the Stone Summit could have somehow recovered it from Rurik's original body and given it to the Char, because they were kind of dicks to humans anyway, weren't they, in the first game? But yeah, it's kind of weird.
There's so many possibilities, and just the fact that he jumps after it, I just think there's something he is not telling us. He says, we cannot win this war without this sword. And he jumps after it into this unknown portal into the mists that anything could be on the other side. And he just fearlessly jumps in after it. It's like this sword is so important to him, or so important to whatever his mission is, that there's got to be more to it that we don't know.
It would be interesting to see if they bring elements of the Zaitan story arc back in, because the swords are originally Orion magic. And they were gifted to Adalbern and what's his face, Rurik, by the Kings of Or. So it'd be cool. It'd be interesting to see if they could somehow bring that back in together. And I think that's kind of the direction that they're going in at the moment, considering that while the other dragons, particularly kept to their own kind of space in the world. Like Zaitan was always down in Ur, Kralkatorrik is as yet unseen in the Crystal Desert, and Jormag's up in the Shiver Peaks. This is the first time that a dragon's tried to expand its power base across Tyria. So
True.
whether or not he's kind of going as like, right, we need to actually do something more than this, and maybe it is something to do with kind of tapping into the mists and I don't know.
Yeah, it's just perplexing. It was like there was all
Go
ahead.
Sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I seriously doubt Rian has been this savvy with it. But it would be cool if they were. It would be cool if like Smolder was perhaps actually orchestrating it, kind of behind the scenes, anyways, because maybe he's actually sending Rytlock on a secret mission with all this and the facade.
I would believe that.
Like,
that's
like,
possible.
oh, I'm doing some research. I'll just make it work. And then, like, when he disappears, Smolder's like, he'll be okay. And we'll just
again.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, Smolder was just like, he's Rytlock. He can take care of himself. He's been in worse scrapes than this. He'll be fine. Don't worry.
Char MI5. And he's like, God.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. Or actually, yeah, we could do like a James Bond Rytlock thing where he's like undercover, and which would be one hell of an interesting James Bond if like Rytlock tried to be James Bond. Like no suave whatsoever. What?
I was a little disappointed that there was pretty much no mention of Magdare at all. Like I thought that was a possibility that's why we went to see Air, was to get Magdare, but apparently,
right.
Like I said, so Rytlock says. I don't know what the official lore is for it, that you just need Sahothin since Magdare's the one that made the curse. That's what he said. So Sahothin's the one that breaks it.
That's so weird that
I thought it was both.
Didn't say anything on that.
I've seen both reported as true. So and I don't know where the source is, so I don't know how to look up which one is true.
I think it'd be kind of weird if they did jump back to that, especially with the Ascalonian Catacombs story. It seems kind of dumb not to bring Magdare into it somehow,
right?
Especially because AC was the catalyst for like the Destiny's Edge story, and Rytlock kind of wanders off annoyed because he had to go and get the sword for Logan, and it just seems a little bit kind of weird that they built all this up and Logan had been there all this time, and which actually leads into my favorite theory at the moment, which I came up the other night with when I was a little bit tired. And my theory is that Logan is one of the heirs of Doric and that, so he gets the sword. They undo the curse. Him and Jenna get married, which is slightly incestuous considering they're both related to Doric, but never mind. And then
They're royals. They're royals.
Yeah. And then the bloodstone behind Jenna's throne falls over, squashes them both, but as luck would have it, they're both chosen. That makes the Massat happy, and the Massat become a playable race in Season 3.
Nice.
Thank you.
Oh.
That's probably wrong on so many levels, but I'd like to see it.
I like the kind of Monty Python is, like the stone goes...
Yeah, just like that.
And I now pronounce you...
Our glorious union. I just love that. Yeah, great.
Oh.
But yeah.
I don't know what to think. I mean, and the Magdare was originally supposed to go to Logan, and that just never happened, and it was never mentioned again. We went and saw Air, didn't even mention it at all. It was all about Bram being all nervous to talk to his mom again. were you guys? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It just seems, with these MMORPGs, it really just, like, you really wish that you could, like, talk to the people writing these stories, because they are human beings, so you kind of think, it's like, well, you guys are actually the ones being hired by this company, working for this company with all this lore. Aren't you aware of all these important lore bits? Because, like, not just in this game, but other games too, where you're like, you just often have to scratch your head. It's like, what are you guys thinking? Don't you know about...
I'm just convinced that anytime you're going, don't you even, like, remember that Air has Magdare? That there is it's just not relevant, or there's some plan for it down the road that's going to be revealed. I think, I don't know, I think that's ridiculous to say they just forgot about it. Did they forget about it? No.
Yeah,
Trust me, they didn't.
I think at the moment we're still kind of in the setup stage for
We're in
for
the
the
setup
entire
stage for a
season.
lot of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, 'cause the nice thing to see, at least, is just that the story for this season two is, I mean, we're like only just now into episode three, I think, right? So it's like, considering if this continues to go on for a life of till like the same length of season one, till like the end of January-ish, February, that's a lot of episodes. And this is a hell of a lot beefier than what they were
And
doing
there's a
with season
lot
one.
happening in each
So,
episode. We're finding out a lot of
yeah.
stuff.
So like it's I like to give them the benefit of the doubt for now, and then I can pass judgment when like the season's over. Which like sadly, a lot of people in the community were passing judgment on season one like after like the first month. I was just like, guys, it's
Yeah, I
not even
mean
over yet, man.
the
Like,
um
you
the,
know,
the volunteer thing was a little bit weird though. I mean, there was like a cool scavenger hunt with there was a lost and found achievement where you had to run around and you had to find where little bits were hidden, but a lot of it was like hit the sign 75 times or something and you get a little
yeah.
title. But one of the things that I really like about the last patch was this mysterious vine back piece, and it's something that I really liked about the Amberite weapons as well, that they're starting to introduce like stuff you actually have to work for. I wasn't too keen on the fact that the fossilized insect was an RNG thing, as are the Foxfire
Yeah.
clusters. But now, I don't know how much reading you guys have done about this, but it's this back piece, kind of like the spinal blades, that it's going to grow and stuff
Yeah.
as
I
this
love
season
that.
grows
Yeah.
on.
I'm
That's
so
a good idea.
intrigued.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm currently going for it. Because I just know that it looks cool by itself, but just knowing that it's going to grow and evolve, I'm like, I want to be on that right now because it's probably going to end up looking really cool, and I want that.
I spent a ton of gold on it for doing a crafting video, and like the day after it came out, I was like, so I've got to get this video up and find out how it's done. So I was there, kind of like recording and minimizing and checking Delphi. Yes, I mean I figured it out on my own. And and just trying to put this thing together, but it's really kind of cool, and they're introducing new recipes and that kind of thing. But my only slight concern is how viable geode farming is going to be once the story moves on away from Drytop and away from the Sandstorm events.
As long as they, as long as they keep adding, if there's something that's going to require them, like from the Zephyrite vendor for whatever, that all they need to do is stick a recipe in there that you need geodes to buy, and people will be farming in Drytop. That just that one little thing. It's the same as the leather squares or whatever it is, are crazy overstocked on the gem store, or the trading post, so we're gonna have this back piece require 200 leather to, so I think that that's a really good way to regulate everything, because you put a new back piece or a weapon in there that everybody's going to want, and everybody's going to want it, so it's going to kind of regulate, the materials. Now they really should have included mithril. I run right by mithril. I'm like, why do I even mine this? It's not, there's so much of it.
I do so little resource gathering. I just salvage all my blues and greens for the magic find stuff, and I just end up with stacks and stacks of mithril and leather sections and silk. Oh my god, I could clothe 100 men in the amount of silk that I have sitting in my bank at the moment.
But they did that with something required silk, and silk is actually more than 2 copper.
I know, it's great, isn't it?
I know, it's like over a silver a piece. I remember 6 months ago, it was like you couldn't give the stuff away. I wish I wouldn't have sold it all for 2 copper a piece. I wish I would have hung on to it. But yeah, I love all the new weapons, the new Ambrite weapons. I'm not so... I think the RNG on stuff like the Ambrite weapons is okay, because I don't think that the RNG is not so terrible that you'll never get it. What I don't like is that they're not tradable. I've had people. Yeah. I started farming for the fossilized insects one night with a couple people in my guild, and I got one like right off the bat, and I don't want an Ambrite weapon. I've got this thing sitting in my inventory. And I wished I could have just given it to my guildmate who wanted an Ambrite weapon when they had to go and farm for another 2 days in order to get theirs. So it like I said, it's not a terrible drop rate, but I'm upset that I got one, I didn't want it, and it was account bound, so I couldn't just give it to my friend. But I don't know.
I know it's really weird because if that's account bound, and you can sell the foxfire clusters that you that you gather from the tree stumps, and you can sell them. I mean, I think there's a couple of bits that might be account bound. Like you can't sell the bits that you get from the story, which kind of makes sense, I guess. But you can sell the foxfire clusters, but not this, for all intents and purposes, an exotic drop, which is what it is, isn't it? Because it's the orange writing. I don't know. It is nice to see that it's not a trading post weapon skin, and it is something that people actually
have to work for. I like that too. Even if all the materials, not the fossilized weapons, but the back piece, even if you can just go on the trading post and buy everything, I like that you have to craft it yourself, and you have to go through the story in order to get, I think 4 of the pieces come from the story. And I think there's some other things in the world that you have to go do. I haven't done them all.
Yeah.
I don't have it yet, but I like that.
You have to do this really kind of great scavenger hunt that takes you up to like Frostgorge Sound and Iron Marches and back into the Lion's Arch. So you have to. I mean, it's really kind of easy. You click on where it wants to take you, and it shows you where. So you have to do like a jumping puzzle and dive down a well and go for a bit of a swim. But yeah, it's really nice. And I like the fact that what they've said for the longest time is we want to get people back out in the world, and I don't think. And
it's really good for that.
Yeah, it's getting people. It's like, oh, I've not done this jumping puzzle before, and you jump up in here, and yeah, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, that was very well implemented. Let's move on to the trailer for episode 4, where the biggest things are we saw Bram and Timey out in the desert, which just killed me. And we saw.
Yeah, I saw your video to that. I totally didn't catch at first that Timey was like shaking and shivering.
Yeah, she's shaking out in the desert while Inquest are running at her and Bram. Bram's ready to fight, but he's looking back at Timey because Scruffy is broken into pieces.
I did notice this in episode 2, I think, that after they were in Scarlet's room, the voice modulator on Scruffy started acting up for the rest of that episode. And I was kind of thinking, is something wrong with Timey, or is Scruffy on the out and out? But I think it doesn't do it in Dragon's Reach Part 1, but there was definitely a little bit in one of the earlier episodes where the voice modulator on Scruffy kind of acts up a bit. But Scruffy's
I didn't
broken.
notice that.
Scruffy's broken. Oh no.
Oh boy.
And Timey's shaking and shivering.
She's shaking in the desert, and she has her waypoint invention, her right next to her in the desert, and we actually see a Mordrum pop up in the chamber by Omad's machine. So I think what happens is that, she's in there waiting for her machine to, analyze the waypoint system. A Mordrum pops up. They have no choice but to flee. I don't know where the other Asura end up going. or if maybe they went back to Radasum and she's just standing there like, she said her waypoint machine's going to take a couple weeks to work, so she's just kind of waiting there. With Casimir. Casimir stayed with her too, and we didn't see Casimir in the trailer. Because Casimir said, I'm going to stay here and, look after Timey while you go and help Bram, and then we never heard anything else about them. So Mordrum pops up. Timey is forced to flee with Scruffy. I'm thinking maybe she gets into Scruffy. Scruffy grabs the waypoint machine, and they escape, perhaps through that Inquest hatch. There's an Inquest door in the extended part of Drytop that we're not supposed to go to yet, but you can get into, or you could get into. There's an Inquest door, so I'm guessing that there's like an underground tunnel, and she uses that Inquest tunnel in order to get out and get away from the Mordrum. But in the process of using the Inquest tunnels, she attracts their attention. They come after her. Scruffy breaks in the process of escaping, so she's stranded in the desert. I don't know where Bram shows up from. But maybe she's
from
got
the mist.
She's got a little homing beacon or something on Bram. Come help me, Bram! And so somehow Bram shows up there. Maybe Casimir goes and gets him and portals him there or something like that. I don't know.
That's a long portal from
I know.
Albrecht to bloody Rytlock,
I don't
isn't
know.
it?
I don't know how Bram gets there, but the rest of that's my theory. But the thing that makes me scared is that you have Inquest coming towards Bram. It looks like there's Bram between them and Timey, and it's like there's like 6 Inquests coming, and it's like if Bram fails, they're gonna get Timey, and there's nothing she can do unless she's got some crazy Asura magic device in her pocket that can like shield her or something.
What
Well,
if
here's the thing-
like Timey actually gets like kidnapped by the Inquest in this episode?
Oh my god!
That'd be kind of interesting, you know.
You stole my thought, man.
No!
You stole my thought.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if you think it's not actually a completely unattractive prospect for Timey, though, is it? Because she's very well, no, she's very invested in researching Scarlet's
That's very
bits
true.
on dragon magic, and the Inquest obviously have got the Crucible of Eternity. So they go, Timey, you will come to work with us, and she's like, yeah, all right.
yeah,
not?
Okay, this will be cool.
So we don't have to torture you at all. No,
Oh
it's
my
fine.
god,
good.
you
Yeah,
guys! I didn't
Just a
even think
little,
of that.
perhaps. No, I'm fine. Oh, okay.
Oh no! Oh no! I didn't even think of that.
Well, yeah, because
Very
like
possible.
if there's like only Braum there, then and if they're shaking it up that it's kind of this tense thing, and if Scruffy's disabled, then
She doesn't have a
Yeah.
choice if they
Not
get through
really.
Bram and possibly Casimir, because Casimir, like I said, Casimir was watching her, so it's possible she's there too.
and it would be a great story moment to have her suddenly get kidnapped.
Oh
because
my god!
She is like the physically weakest one, most
Oh, yeah.
vulnerable of
Right?
them.
Without Scruffy, there's nothing she can do. She's at their mercy.
What if Flunt's in on it? The inspector from like he's a bad guy.
Oh,
You know, in the history of ways to make someone look like a bad guy and have them turn out to be a bad guy in a surprise, he's easily a very evil little Azura. And he's like,
be.
Timey, I bet.
But at
I
the
don't trust.
same
I don't trust any Azura. They're all evil little.
You know, he
Yoda
does
thing.
show a lot of distaste for Zoja, and she's Zoja's apprentice. So they're even talking about, like, okay, it's been 2 years, more than that, since Snaff's died. She needs to get over it. They're kind of saying, I got the gist in episode 3 that Zoja's been doing stuff not so much on the up and up, but they've been letting it slide because she's just been using Snaff's death as an excuse. Oh, I'm Snaff's death. I can't handle it. And they're like, okay, do whatever you want, Zoja. But they're starting to get tired of it. They're like, we can't let her keep doing this. It's been long enough. So perhaps they're kind of looking for a way to kind of get at Zoja. And, since Timey's connected to her, even though Timey's not crazy about Zoja either, but she's her apprentice, so she kind of doesn't have a choice. So maybe it's some kind of trying to get both of them kind of out of the picture.
It's kind of funny. I just thought of this moment for a second, but does it kind of feel as if like the original Destiny's Edge, that they're kind of picking them off one by one in a way? Because like it almost feels like Zoja could be getting written into a position where she could get killed, as I've heard some theories, or written off, especially with like the real world issues with her voice actor. But then you've got the stuff with Kaith and her connection to Scarlet, so we don't know what's going on with
we
her.
haven't heard anything from Kaith or
Rytlock
Logan.
is off like dimension hopping and sliders. That's what I like to think. So it kind of feels like they're like lopping them off one by one from the original Destiny's Edge, or making them, which is kind of cool. I kind of think. Do you guys think that they might actually be planning this to kind of
Just to kind of kill them all off on the side.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they're getting rid of them. I just think that they're showing that they're still not. Destiny's Edge has always had problems. They've never been a perfectly wonderful, cohesive group working together. They've always had issues. They've always had, personal issues. And so I think that it's just showing that they're still not, it's like there's not this perfect group that, hey, we need to fight another dragon. Let's go get Destiny's Edge and everything's okay. They're not like these superhero group, they're not the Avengers that we can just go call upon and say, come help us. There's a lot of problems, and now Rytlock's gone, and we don't know if we can trust Kaith, and Zoja's doing whatever she's doing. So I don't know what to think, but I don't think they're trying to like kill them off or anything. I loved seeing Rytlock and Air in episode 3, and I hope we see more of them. I want to see more of Destiny's Edge.
I think Rytlock and Air are certainly my two favorite characters from the original Destiny's Edge.
Same.
Just because I mean, obviously Rytlock's voice was Steve Bloom, and he's just so gruff and arsey, and
Yeah, it's
I
awesome.
absolutely love him. And I don't. I just really like kind of Air's just kind of everyone just chill out and let's just hug it. It'll all be all right. But yeah, I think that slowly the emphasis has shifted on to Destiny's Edge 2.0, and I think at the moment it'd be kind of a really interesting thing to do if they did kill one of them off, to see how they survived as opposed to the original members of Destiny's Edge, because when Snaf bought it, that was kind of it. And even though it was technically Logan's fault, and then but it would be kind of cool to see one of them die and then to see how they dealt with it.
Yeah.
Taking all bets.
Well, yeah.
6-2 on Casimir.
6-2, Casimir. I still love that joke that Tommy did about Casimir saying, "Yeah, we weigh exactly 16 Casimirs." It's like, oh, I'm a unit of weight now. It's like,
I heard a wonderful kind of reverse theory, because everyone said, well, if maybe Marjorie really did die, but Casimir's creating like an illusion of her, and Marjorie's all like, because Casimir can't handle it and she went crazy, so Marjorie's just an illusion. She really died. But I read an awesome reverse theory that said Casimir died, and Marjorie actually brought her back, and Casimir is actually a walking undead, because Marjorie's keeping her animated because she can't handle it.
That'd
be awesome.
So messed up.
Like, both of those
What if
theories are so
both are
messed up.
true?
Both are true.
What
They're
if like both are
they're
actually
both dead.
true? So they're both technically dead. It's like Casimir's a zombie and Marjorie's rotting underground, or no, it's like because like when you're like talking about like Casimir, it just made me think of like some kind of like psycho type thing where like the real body of like Jury is like in like Casimir's home or something, just like rotting away, and like Casimir comes and like puts lipstick on. He's like, "It's okay, don't worry. Would you like some tea?"
Oh
It's just
my
this
God.
corpse. He's like, "La la la la."
Why don't we write for ArenaNet? This would be brilliant.
I know.
We just lose the under 17 demographic in like a week, wouldn't we? It'd be amazing.
Oh my
Awesome.
gosh.
Well, we got Timey for them. Otherwise, kids don't pay attention to the zombie girls over here that are like
Zip it,
technically both undead.
puts the
And
lotion on its skin.
this is like turning into
Oh.
like yeah, any
Way
number of
we're
like
going
dramas.
way too far.
You know.
Well, we need to wrap
Vampire
up
dramas.
soon. Let's talk briefly about the second half of the trailer, which was the lights or glow in the pale tree going out. And we saw the 5. I'm assuming the 5 people are representing player characters, and Dragon Roar, and the pale tree talking about the dragon is coming, the shadow of the dragon.
And it looks like it's like from a point of view of either like
Of something attacking,
Yeah.
because it like comes in from
Yeah.
above at the very end.
Battle for the Grove. Oh, that's already been done, hasn't it? That was the Battle for Lion's Arch. I think it's kind of interesting. Do you remember the cutscene where you're flying through the Eternal Alchemy,
Yeah.
and you see the balls, and then one of them like slams into the middle, and obviously the going theory is that the central bit is the kind of the eternal alchemical manifestation of the pale tree. So actually having whichever, I assume that ball was like Mordremoth, just like slamming into the pale tree is like, right, I'm gonna steal all your power. Because if somehow the pale tree and the eternal alchemy are linked, and it's fair game to assume at this point that they are, and it all ties in with the ley line magic and the stuff that Mordremoth's kind of absorbing, why not just go directly to the source and just kind of fight the pale tree?
Right.
Who did sound a lot like Kate Blanchett in Lord of the Rings in that trailer, didn't she? It was very Galadriel.
It was a good voice. In season 1, I didn't really like a lot of that overarching trailer voice, the narrator, but I liked this one a lot. You're right. It did sound very like almost elvish.
It would be really cool though. I mean, like, because like if this is like a three-part thing, like imagine if they actually did do that, like make this into like a battle for Lion's Arch, only a battle for the Grove, and actually permanently change the Grove, because they easily could do that and still have
Oh
like
my
all of the
gosh,
stuff
fill the
functioning, right?
grove with Morgemoth vines.
Well,
Yeah, and like have like
oh,
have like a really dark period of like the fighting combat happens, and then have like the kind of cleanup period, and like you can still have the Grove there, but it'll be like post-apocalyptic Grove of
Oh man.
like things bashed and thrashed and stuff, and like Morty would have like sucked maybe like the white tree nearly to death or something, and
well,
yeah,
what is interesting? It's if they did go that way, there's a chance that you wouldn't have to rebuild the Grove. You could completely destroy the Grove. If either of you guys have played the Sylvari arc, there's an option where you meet a Sylvari called Malik, and he's not a Soundless. He's got connections to the Dream. And he's just like, oh, that's what that is. It's the Dream. But he actually comes from another pale tree. He actually comes from a second pale tree. That's you can see that big circle near Dry Top on your map when you zoomed out. There's I think, and as do many other people, that is the location of another pale tree. So maybe an entire relocation, like a proper relocation, not
Oh
like just from
wow.
Light Touch to
Like
Vigil
that's the
to
new
another pale
grove.
tree. Yeah.
Oh wow.
that'd be cool.
And you get a more permanent establishment in that new area rather than people hanging around Lion's Arch and just go, we got this brand new city, and maybe the pale tree moves there somehow. That I don't know if could that work. Could the pale tree physically move?
I don't know.
Like the
Or
actual
the
tree?
essence of the pale tree.
Yeah.
The pale mother moves to like another tree or another location. I don't know.
Well, I
Or
heard that
maybe
like
there's a seed, and then we have to like relocate and plant the seed. Like this is our mother, because there's obviously another mother. Or Malik's tree doesn't have a dream, right?
It's he,
oh,
it's not. I can't quite remember how it works out. He's not Soundless, so he's not.
No.
He has some connection to the Dream, and he obviously Fallon tries to turn him to the Nightmare, but he's just kind of there and just going. But he is definitely different from the Soundless. I might have to have a quick look on the old wiki.
I thought I remembered reading that someone mentioned the dream to him, and he didn't even know what they were talking about.
Yeah. So I'm just. He's known to the Nightmare Court as the Harbinger. He has no memory of the Dream. Huh. That's interesting. I really would like to see them do something with Malik, because I thought he was a really interesting character, and
Yeah.
you get these snippets of potential awesomeness, and
I think we're
and just go-
definitely fated to at some point see another pale tree
yeah,
and kind
I
of
think
learn.
so.
And from Malik, I got the impression that the pale tree that we know, our pale tree, is the only one that has a dream. So there is something else powering it. Like I don't think Ventari's tablet would have been enough to create a dream where normal pale trees don't have a dream. So, like I said, it could be something as crazy as like it's on top of a bloodstone, it's on top of a ley line
Yeah,
hub, and so it grew with extra power from the ley lines, or even from Morgemoth, which goes back to the whole Morgemoth being connected to the Sylvari theory. So that's something that there's something extra that created the dream of dreams for our Sylvari. That's the impression that Malik gives me for his pale tree not having a dream, or having a different kind of. It's not the dream of dreams.
it's a different experience for him.
Right.
He feels something, but he wouldn't call it the Dream.
Right. That's crazy. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm actually really kind of happy that they're doing so much exploration into the kind of Sylvari aspect, because there are a lot of interesting mysteries with these tree folk, and they really are kind of a distinguishing aspect of the Guild Wars 2
Yeah.
franchise, of these, like, because they're basically elves, but they're like elves made of trees, and like literally made of trees, of plant life. So that's a pretty unique state, because there really aren't many other races like that, and for them to have the kind of significance that they have in this world of Tyria, this is going to be a really interesting season to see where they go, especially with Morgemoth's connection as being this kind of jungle dragon, which
Yeah.
I love the feel of Mortimer. Like the Zaitan undead thing, I'm sick of undead. Like zombies, The Walking Dead bores me to tears, but I love the idea of Mortimer being this nasty, evil source that's essentially of plants and life, really, of nature. It's like he's kind of the dark side of nature in that way, like red in tooth and claw, and I really dig that vibe that he's got, this kind of nature but bad nature
Would you
vibe.
not think? Would you not think it would be maybe a bit too? I mean, they'd have to be very careful to try and stay away from the comparisons with Scarlet because obviously the Nightmare Court came into play quite majorly towards the end of her arc.
Yeah. Obviously we still have connections to Scarlet, and obviously her work is still very present, and I think it's going to come up again. Kind of her legacy, especially if she's working with the Inquest and stuff like that. But I'm just looking forward to how we need to learn something from the Pale Tree. I was so disappointed in episode 3 that like this audience with the Pale Tree was like, to me it was a big deal, like we're gonna have an audience with the Pale Tree, and then she's just like, why don't you tell me about Mordramoth? And I'm like, I
No.
thought you were gonna tell me about Mordramoth, not me telling you.
You're the
And then
flippin' Pale
okay,
Tree.
well we're gonna have this summit. I my hope for episode 4, I really hope this summit actually happens, or at least is going to happen before whatever attacks. It would be amazing if the world leaders are actually at the Pale Tree when Mordramoth attacks. I don't know why I just have this feeling Queen Jenna's gonna die or get kidnapped or just something is gonna happen to Queen Jenna. I just have this feeling.
Is it because you hate her being happy, or just because that's
Hate to be happy.
that's why I want her dead? To
Happy.
be honest, it's she's just like and I kind of want to see. I kind of want to see Logan flip out as well. So like
That would be pretty fun to see, I gotta admit.
because in like the original trailer, there's like the guy with the eye patch and everything, and he's just kind of sort of disappeared. What if like Jenna dies, Logan completely flips his shit? Excuse me, sorry, and sorry,
That's cool.
and he just goes bananas and gets an eye patch and is like, ah!
That'd be awesome. Yeah, because
Either
like
way, Jenna has to die. That's it.
I think like Logan needs some kind of breaking point because he seems to be constantly, obviously in love with her and doing everything for her, and she just really casually being like, "Oh, there, little puppy dog, go away." And it's like he's like doing so much, and it's like it's gonna eventually he's gonna like and like snap, and it's And then of course my favorite guy, Smoldering and Flinching, would just be sitting there going, "Stupid humans." Yeah. So. Which the one cool thing I just want to say is I thought it was really cool that we're seeing the actual faction leaders, like not Destiny's Edge, but the actual faction leaders like Smolder have an active part in this. So that really gives me hope that they can do this, like that they're actually gonna like not have static major political leaders for the story, that they will take part and they will be more active. So I find that really kind of cool.
I like that too. All right, well, we need to wrap up the show. So why don't you guys let us know, Alex, let us know all about where people can find you on the interwebs.
Yeah, I live at youtube.com/the only RPG Shack because the RPG Shack was taken by somebody who wasn't using it.
That's
so I
the
had
worst.
to put the only in there, and I was like, no! I had this idea. But yeah, so youtube.com/the only RPG Shack, and I'm sure I made a Facebook page at some point as well, but yeah. Yeah, and I'm on Twitter at the RPG Shack as well.
Awesome. And I believe you make Guild Wars 2 videos, right? And some other stuff? Some Guild Wars 2?
Yeah, I mostly do Guild Wars 2 videos. I try and make Fallout New Vegas videos when the mods will work, and but I do a whole load of RPG stuff. So I'm waiting for Wasteland 2 to come out, and there's a Pillars of Eternity beta out this month, which is going to be amazing. So which is all like your old school 2D isometric games. So yeah, there's a lot of Guild Wars 2 stuff, but it's not. If you want sensible discussion, you need to listen to these two people.
Oh, please.
Oh, very cool. Akasaurus, what are you working on?
Well, yeah, like my interests are pretty much Guild Wars 2, WoW, and ponies. or just ranting and raving about whatever the hell I want to. So.
That works.
Yes. And doing panels. My big thing is to do panels at Comic-Con things. That's the thing I like to do. It's sort of my way of being a professor, but doing it for free. So that's my big do. So I've been very slow at making the videos, but Akasaurus Rex on YouTube or my Facebook page. I've got a character Facebook page centered around Beast that I do cosplays for called Beastly Man on Facebook. So I'd love to see anyone there if you want to say hello. So.
Very cool. Very awesome. The links to all of these sites will be down in the description. Of course, if you want to see more GUILDGAB or my crazy reaction videos where I cry and freak out and go when I see Timmy shaking in the desert. Or if you happen to be into Sailor Moon, doing a lot of stuff about that too, of course, hit that subscribe button and like. And of course, we want to hear your comments about everything we talked about today. What are your theories? What are your crazy guesses as to what Logan's gonna freak out when Queen Jenna dies? My brain just stopped working. Okay, so we're gonna go check out all the links in the description, and with that, we're gonna go. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll catch you next time. All right, bye.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Death to Jenna.